One of our clients went from making $100,000 a month to $1.5 million a month, all within less than a year, with the exact same offer, the same market, the same brand. They had no viral moment, no rebrand, no new market, but they just figured out a way to be able to crack the code. I want to walk you through exactly what happened. So there's three very specific things that any founder can be able to apply right now, whether you have a team or whether you're just still being able to try to build one right now. So this business is a coaching business. They're running webinars, they turn on paid ads, they're doing about $100,000 a month. So my best friend at the time, he's like basically a solo operator. He's handling sales, he's handling the operation, he's making sure that he's managing the client's experience, just a full nine. And leads are coming in much faster than they were able to expect. So they figured out, hey, look, I'm building this business, and as this business continues to grow, it's growing a little bit faster than I can probably be able to handle. And they gave me a call. So they called me. They're, hey Ryan, I need help, and I need help fast. And this is exactly the roles they were asking for. They were like, hey, look, Ryan, I need somebody to help me with the DMs. I need an executive assistant to just help me just get through my day a little bit easier, help me manage my day, help me just get through my day. I just need an EA. And specifically, what else I need is a customer service representative to be able to respond back to a large amount of leads that are just continuing to reach out to me. So that's exactly what we went out and we did. And that's exactly what we went out and built. So this is the lesson in everything that I've learned. So originally we brought the customer service rep in, and originally they were an appointment setter. She was sharp. You can just tell genuinely she cared about the business. But as you watch her work, it was clear that she's probably not the best at this position. She's probably just not the best at setting appointments, because this role requires an appointment setter. But one thing that she has a phenomenal characteristic with is she's exceptional with people. She's great at de-escalating situations. She's great at de-escalating frustrated clients. She's able to retain people. One of the most important things is we're able to recognize that with her talent, she's actually able to help us build real relationships. So we moved her. We said, hey, look, what we want to do is we want to take this same exact person, but what we're going to do is we're going to put you in the customer service department. We're going to put you in this department, and we're not only are going to do that is we're going to probably make you the head of it, because essentially we know you care, and we know we may need more people for this role, but let's just see if we put you in this department. Let's see how well you do. So essentially, here's what most founders miss. Your best team members aren't always struggling. Sometimes they're just in the wrong seat. So the job title that you may have hired them for, you may recognize you may be exceptional in a different role that actually will pull my business to a whole nother level. So we recognize that. It's very important to recognize that as a founder. It's very important to recognize that as a CEO. I find it funny. It's kind of like the job title that you hired this person for in the role that they're probably just built better at are just two completely different things. And the only way to be able to catch that is just by staying close enough to being able to see it. So when you're finding somebody great, you don't just give them a job description and say, these are the limits that you have. I don't want you to go anywhere outside of this scope. I don't want you to go anywhere near a different type of scope. I don't want you to even just compete with anybody else in terms of you just doing anything else for this business. Don't ever limit people. You're going to be able to have people inside of your business. You'll quickly be able to recognize that, hey, look, you may have this one specific skill set, but I may recognize that you may be better in another one, or you may be telling me that you're phenomenal in this one skill set, but we may be able together to recognize that maybe you're in operation, you should be in sales. Maybe you're in sales, you should be more in operation. How organized are you? That really puts a determining factor on what role you're going to have in my business, or what role you're going to have in anybody else's business that we place them in. So essentially, like I mentioned before, you can take them, you move them before you just lose them. I identify that this person is actually the right person for my business. I'm going to move them and see if I can make them fit in a different sector or a different operation in my business before I just get rid of them. Okay. Now, the second lesson, and this is where it gets very, very interesting. Things are just starting to click. It wasn't just clicking just because everybody's doing their job, but it's clicking because everybody is more in their specific role. Everybody is more directly connected to revenue, and they know where they're directly connected to revenue. So paint this picture. Ads are running. Leads are now starting to come in. The DM setter is working with every single lead. She's warming them up. She's qualifying them. Leads who need to get more education, they're going to another webinar, and during that webinar, the EA's in there. You're not having to sit there and figure out how you can get answered emails in the background. You're having actual moderation while everything is going on. You're keeping the audience engaged, answering the chats. So essentially everything in energy is good. Now just think about that for a quick second. An executive assistant, a role most founders treat as purely just administrative, was actively increasing the webinar conversion just simply because we knew and they know how directly tied to the revenue they are. So they're not just going to be seen as, hey, look, I'm just this little person in this company. I'm just some small admin in this company. They're feeling like they're directly tied to this company. They're directly tied to money. Doesn't that motivate everybody? So after the webinar, customer service started to pick up, but then something happened that nobody started to notice. The DM setter got so good at reading the lead, she started to identify who was ready to buy before the webinar. She's able to identify and qualify somebody. If they need to go through a webinar, I'm gonna send them that way. But if they don't need to go through a webinar, what I'm gonna do is just book them straight to our high ticket offer. Just that simple. Boom, just that quick. Done. 2 passive revenue being taken care of at the exact same time. Both are growing, but it all doesn't have to do with the founder having to be fully involved in the business. There's a very simple reason why this happened. She was trained on AI. She actually has all the prompts and the frameworks that were specifically built to make sure that when she hopped into this role and she got into this business, she was going to excel. So she's not going in these conversations with some generic ChatGPT tips, some generic ChatGPT throw out in terms of, hey, look, there's a ChatGPT response or some automated response that every single coach is doing. We're not going the generic route. We're actually having real conversation. So with her learning that, she's developing her own skill set. She's actually taking these tools, she's understanding her job, she understands what's working, she understands what's not working, she's able to identify how to work harder, how to work smarter, but actually how to be able to drive more revenue to the business. And that's something that every founder needs to be able to hear. AI is not just going to sit here and do everything for you. It isn't just a tool for you. The biggest unlock is when your team knows how to actually use it. When you have a virtual assistant running AI on a fraction of the level or on the same exact level that you are, your business moves with the complete complexity of speed. You're talking about actually taking time away from you, but taking the time away from your assistant, letting your assistant actually get more time back to allow your business to be able to grow exponentially. That's how you get an advantage. Most of your competitors are not trying to figure out, how can I get my own time back as a CEO? They're trying to figure out, hey, how can I be able to get some of this work done when somebody else can do that work for you? But how effective can they be when they're doing that work? And that's the second lesson. Every role in your business should have a traceable background back to one thing. That's revenue. If you can't draw a line in your business today and say, hey, look, this is what this person does for my business, but specifically, this is how they're tying it to revenue, or this is how this person helps me bring in my next check, or this is how this person helps me retain this next check, you have not built a team. If you're not doing that, all you do is just build overhead. If you want us to build this inside of your business, the link is going to be in the description below, where we'll basically be able to map out exactly what your team is going to need and exactly what your team is going to look like, but essentially what you need to do to make sure that every hire essentially just pays for themselves. So if that interests you, I would love for you to book a call and let's talk. Now, here's the third lesson, and here's what most people overlook entirely. So based upon how this team was structured, the payroll cost was essentially just a fraction of what it will cost for a US hire. That's for a full-time executive assistant, a customer service rep, a DM setter, and so on and so forth. So how much would it cost you to basically run that domestically? You're looking at probably about like $150,000, maybe $180,000 a year if that person has benefits, taxes before just turnover. Hey, look, I'm paying a lot for having this US salary, but I'm gonna put this same team in place with a fraction of the cost. That's where the difference sets is you didn't put that money directly back into your pocket. You put that money directly back into what actually makes that business grow. Running more ads, spending more time with leads, spending more money on leads, building more revenue, actually building a team or building systems that help you find out where that next check is actually going to come from. So essentially the team paid for itself. Your team basically funded your own growth. So that's the flywheel. It only works if you build the right team, but the right team must be built from the very start. And that's exactly what unlocked for the CEO. That's exactly what made that person go from making $100,000 to over $1.5 million in a month. Is once that operation was handled, every single time a task came up, there was a person behind it or a system behind it that can do that task, that can actually make sure that that task is taken care of at a high level, and that allowed him to be able to scale his business, not fully focusing on how in the world is this little small task that needs to get done? So with that being said, what drives him more leads? That's different for every single person. What drives him more leads is he's able to focus more entirely on his content, able to focus more entirely on his marketing. That's it. That's what allows him to be able to grow. It allows him to build his brand, run his ads, grow his audience. So essentially his business was able to just fund itself by having the team members that helped him run the operation. But not only is the operation being ran, it's being ran by the right people doing the right tasks, but you can actually afford to do it. He could afford to do whatever you would like to do. His business is more running like a machine that it doesn't involve him having to push every single button. Now, most founders, they do the complete opposite. They're completely scared to just make their very first hire or just stay in the weeds. They're completely complacent with staying in there, trying to figure out how you can fix operations instead of trying to grow your operation, how to fix little issues instead of trying to figure out, hey, look, how can I manage my team to fix these issues that allow me to actually grow my business to a whole nother level? And also at the same time, focus on marketing when that drives most of your revenue. So most of their founders just find themselves stuck in the operation, trying to fix client issues, trying to figure out how in a way, somehow, build what I'm trying to build. So essentially, the result of doing everything in your business is getting only probably about 50 to 60% of the stuff done, where operators are finding themselves tight. Operators are finding themselves constrained on time, where time is limited. We all have the same 24 hours, but are my 24 hours being put constantly into marketing, or is my 24 hours being put constantly into fixing small issues in my business? So the moment he delegated everything around him, his business just started to just get more organized, and simply put, it started making more money. Because he had more time to be able to focus where is the most important time a CEO needs to spend their time on. So he tried to spend more time trying to figure out how the hell he's going to be able to build that business the right way. So company culture is so important, and this is the part that got me the most. So both the customer service rep and that same exact executive assistant voluntarily moved their hours up from 40 hours all the way up to 62 hours a week, and nobody asked them to do that. It's simply because they cared about the business. They understood how much time that they needed to put into the business, and it wasn't the CEO's decision. It was their decision to make sure that, hey, look, I genuinely care and I see that there's work on my desk. Can I please just make sure that I get it done for you? So they genuinely cared, and what's the result of that? A business that's building without the CEO being fully involved. So we're taking these people, we're putting them in the right seat, and essentially we're treating the relationship like it essentially just matters. So that company does over $1 million a month. They have 40 team members, and just about half of them are virtual assistants placed through us. Multiple DM setters, customer service reps, growing executive assistants, people that are just fully involved in a business, and that allows us as a business owners to be able to develop a great relationship. So fast forward to now, we're partners with them. Fast forward to now, we're actually directly helping out students, helping them build their own remote team. So all that happened simply because we showed up, we paid attention not only to who was thriving, but also to who wasn't thriving. Essentially, when needs changed within those first 6 months, they gave us a call. They completely had a complete honest conversation with us, and that honest conversation allowed us to be able to sustain a great relationship up until this day. One of the people simply just are afraid of just doing is just repositioning people, but we reposition people before they actually became the problem. This needs to be changed within the first 6 months, and of course we want to make sure that we're identifying issues in the very beginning, and we can address those issues, identify those issues, and change them, of course, if it's needed. But we're able to have that very honest conversation amongst ourselves or amongst the decision makers of our business to say, hey, look, if this person is the right person, or we see that there could be a future that they can be working with us in the future, why the hell am I just going to just throw them away or kick them to the curb if I know that they actually care? Put people in your business that care, and you'll feel that. So what we did is, we say, hey, look, is this person actually struggling inside your business? And the very first thing that I want to do is find out why. Is it the role? Is it the clarification of the role? What exactly are they struggling with? Let's specifically find out that specific answer. Now, if there is a role difference, that is a way where I'm going to ask, hey, look, is this actually an A player? Is this an A player, a team player that you can actually see building this business with? If that's the case, they're potentially just in the wrong seat. Let's put them in the right seat that allows you as a CEO or you as a business owner to get productive at the absolute highest level. So before we just move on from them, before we just, just take them out of our picture, let's move them into the right position before we just completely just lose them. So now you just taking a staffing transaction into a real life partnership. You have real people in the right seats. Every role is now directly tied to revenue, and there's a cost structure that I've figured out with my team members that actually fund the growth of my business. Not everything is coming directly out of my pocket. I can fund it with this one position that's actually allowing me to be able to hire more people. You developed a founder in your business that has stopped doing completely everything in their business so that you can focus on more important things that actually matter and move your business, which actually grow the business the right way. So that's a simple framework that actually took a business from over $100,000 a month to over $1.5 million a month. Now, if you are interested in building that business and you are tired of being that person from the sideline, the link is going to be in the description below. I would love for you to be able to fill that out to see if you can qualify to work with our company. Now let's get it.